Your #1 RC information source, rccaraction.com. Max Amps. We know how fast you want to go.
Hi, I'm Kevin Demansky and welcome to our mystery car contest. Stay tuned to the end of the video to get your clue on what the mystery car is. Watch all 5 days, collect all 5 clues, and submit your answer to rccaraction.com/mystery car contest. The grand prize winner will win the mystery prize itself. 5 first place winners are going to get our Ultimate Projects book, and 5 second place winners will get a membership to our members only website. Stay tuned and I'll see you at the end of the video.
Hi, I'm Adam Drake from Team Losi. I'm going to show you 3 simple and easy setup tips that are often overlooked. The first one is droop. The way I measure that is with a set of digital calipers. If you don't have a set of digital calipers, you can use just a ruler, but it's much easier and also more precise if you use a set of digital calipers. First, what you'll want to do is take the buggy or truck, set it on a car stand, with the tires and basically ready to hit the track. Now what I'll do is for the front droop on the 8ight 2.0, I run 95 millimeters. So what I'll do is I'll set the calipers to 95 millimeters. And then what you want to do is measure actually from the center of the top shock mounting screw to the center of the bottom shock mounting screw. Actually right now I have just over 95, so I will need to adjust that, but that's where you want it on the rear or on the front. And then for the rear I run 106, and same thing, you'll set the calipers to 106, and then you'll measure from the center of the top shock mount to the center of the bottom shock mount screw. So you can see right now I'm at 106.17, so just over what I normally run. Some of the key things to look for to determine whether you're running too much or not enough droop are when you're running too much droop, your car will roll around a lot more. It'll just feel really lazy. It'll be better straight line through the bumps, but your tires will actually fall deeper into the holes and be worse when turning through the bumps. So doing that, you'll want to limit the droop. Generally, when you limit the droop in the front, you'll take away a little bit of on-power steering, but it will make the car a little bit smoother and more stable on exit. In the rear, when you limit the droop, it'll take away a little bit of turn-in, but it'll again make the car a little bit more stable and smooth getting into the turn. The next thing we're going to do is set the ride height. I use the Team Losi ride height gauge. There's other ride height gauges out there that pretty much all do the same thing. What you'll want to do is set on the 8, we actually run the ride height a little bit higher in the rear. We run 29 millimeters in the back, 27 in the front. So what you'll do is you'll set the gauge to 29 millimeters, and what you'll want to do is drop the car from 4 to 6 inches off the ground. Again, when you do this, you want your car completely in race trim, tires, body, full tank of fuel and everything. So once you drop the vehicle, you'll just slide the gauge underneath. And what you want to do is just have the gauge to where it just brushes the bottom of the chassis. If not, you'll want to adjust just the shock collars to make it at the correct ride height. Then you just do the same thing with the front. Just drop the vehicle from 4 to 6 inches, adjust the gauge to 27 millimeters, and then slide it under the car to where it just brushes the chassis so you know you're at the correct ride height. On the 8ight 2.0, we generally run the ride height, like I said, 29 millimeters in the rear, 27 in the front. That's just the ballpark where we always start. If the track gets a little bit bumpy, sometimes we'll raise the rear ride height slightly to 30 millimeters just to allow more ground clearance to go through the bumps. If we're on a really smooth high bite track where you don't need as much suspension, we'll lower the vehicle. By lowering it to 28 millimeters, it'll also be a little bit smoother off throttle. And then in the front, again, 27 is pretty much our standard. If you need a little bit more turn in, we'll go to 26 millimeters, sometimes even a little bit lower. But the general rule of thumb is 27 millimeters in the front and 29 in the back for the Losi 2.0. The next thing we're going to check is camber. Again, before you set your camber though, you want to make sure you set your ride height. Due to the camber rise and the amount of camber change as the car goes through the travel, your camber will change. So what you need to do is make sure your ride height is set properly first, and then you'll just take your gauge, and in the rear I normally run -2 degrees of camber. And the same thing is like when you're setting the ride height. You want to drop the car from 4 to 6 inches, just slide the gauge over and make sure that the gauge is touching at both the top and bottom of the tire. If not, you need to adjust with your turnbuckle wrench and to the proper setting. In the front on the 8, you'll do the exact same thing. Drop the car from 4 to 6 inches. I run -1 degree camber in the front. So you'll just slide the gauge over again, make sure that the gauge is touching at both top and bottom of the wheel. Again, the general rule of thumb, at least for the Losi 8ight 2.0, is -1 degree of camber in the front, -2 in the rear. If the track gets really bumpy and the car is really grabby and wanting to traction roll, we'll increase the amount of negative rear camber to -3, sometimes even as much as -4. By doing that, you'll lose quite a bit of forward bite, but your car will actually be able to slide over the bumps instead of catching and grabbing. In the front, running more negative camber will give the vehicle more turn in, less steering on exit of the turn. It works very well on loose tracks. But again, the general rule of thumb is -1 degree in the front and -2 in the rear.
Make sure you watch tomorrow's rccaraction.com video to get the next clue.
Your #1 RC information source, rccaraction.com.